They arrived to test whether you would abandon what made you, you. And you felt it, didn't you? That tension between retreating and standing still, between numbing out and staying present, between becoming sharper or remaining sincere. This is where many people change. Where they armor up and call it wisdom, where they trade tenderness for control and mistake it for strength. But something in you wouldn't comply. Even as the storm gathered, there was a calm center forming, like an eye opening in the middle of chaos. Yes. You started seeing patterns you never noticed before, repeating numbers, familiar phrases spoken by strangers, songs playing at the exact moment you needed to hear them. This wasn't coincidence stacking up, it was communication finding a clear channel. Let me ask you something gently. Do you feel as if you're being prepared for a conversation you haven't had yet? As if instructions are coming, but not all at once? That sensation of being briefed in fragments, piece by piece, so you won't be overwhelmed. There was a reason the revelation didn't come all at once. Your nervous system needed time to catch up with your spirit. Sudden illumination can blind if the eyes aren't adjusted. So the process has been gradual, a door opening just enough to let light spill through. Then another, then another, then another, then another. And behind one of those doors, a truth waited that changes how you understand the delays you've endured. You weren't late. You were early. Early for rooms that weren't ready. Early for connections that would have broken under your weight. Early for responsibilities that required the steadiness you only developed through waiting. If you had arrived when you begged to, you would have been misunderstood, misused, or crushed by expectations that didn't fit who you were becoming. That's why progress felt invisible for so long. Roots grow in darkness. Crowns don't form above ground first. They're forged under pressure, shaped by heat, refined where no applause can interfere. Do you see it now? Why the pace frustrated you? Why shortcuts never worked? Why imitation left you empty? You were never meant to copy what worked for others. Your assignment required a different architecture. There has been a quiet assembly around you lately. You haven't seen faces, but you felt the effect. A sudden peace where anxiety used to live. An intuition that speaks before logic catches up. A restraint that saves you from saying the wrong thing at the right time. These are not random traits. They are signs of supervision. Angels don't always announce themselves with wings and trumpets. Sometimes they adjust timing. Sometimes they reroute conversations. Sometimes they stand in the space between impulse and action, giving you just enough pause to choose wisely. You've benefited from that pause more times than you realize. Yet here comes the twist, one that often goes unnoticed. The same qualities that protected you are about to position you. What kept you hidden is what will make you recognizable to the right people. Not flashy recognition, resonant recognition. The kind where someone sees you and feels relief, like they've finally met a familiar language spoken fluently. The kind that opens doors without explanation. But before that happens, there's a crossing, a threshold moment where clarity replaces confusion. It begins with release, not of people necessarily, but of old narratives. Stories you told yourself to survive, beliefs you adopted to make sense of pain. You won't need them where you're going. You may already feel this release starting. Old attachments loosening, old fears losing credibility, old roles feeling too small. That's not restlessness, it's readiness. And here's what few are told. Readiness can feel like grief. Because you're saying goodbye to versions of yourself that kept you alive. Honor them, then let them go. As this part of the journey unfolds, listen more than you speak, watch more than you react. There will be confirmations that arrive softly, a phrase that lands differently, a memory that finally makes sense, a peace that settles without permission. Before we go further, sit with this question for a moment. No need to answer out loud. Just notice what rises. Do you feel an invitation forming, even if you can't yet name what you're being invited into? Because what comes next isn't louder, it's deeper, and it's already moving toward you. Something begins to change once you accept that the invitation is real. Not immediately on the outside. Life doesn't suddenly rearrange itself overnight. But internally, a quiet recalibration starts. It feels like standing on a bridge you didn't know you were crossing until you're halfway over it. You look back and realize you can't return to the way you saw things before, even if you tried. This is where awareness deepens. You start noticing how certain environments drain you faster than they used to. How some conversations feel heavy, almost rehearsed, while others, rare and expected, leave you strangely energized. Your tolerance for surface-level interaction diminishes, not because you're arrogant, but because something in you is craving substance, truth, depth. You're no longer satisfied with noise that pretends to be meaning, and this shift can feel lonely at first. People who once made sense to you may feel distant now, not wrong, just out of sync. You might catch yourself wondering why you can't go back to enjoying what everyone else seems perfectly fine with. Why shallow distractions feel exhausting. Why your spirit resists settling. There's nothing wrong with you. You're not becoming difficult. You're becoming honest. Have you felt that quiet separation lately? That sense that you're standing in the same rooms as others, yet somehow not occupying the same space? This is the emotional setup before the next movement, because whenever inner clarity increases, resistance appears. Not always dramatic, not always external. Sometimes it shows up as doubt wearing a familiar voice. Thoughts like, who do you think you are? Or don't take this too seriously. Or the most dangerous one, you're reading too much into things. But notice something important. Those thoughts arrive right after moments of insight, right after peace, right after alignment. That's not coincidence. That's pressure testing. There is a subtle opposition that doesn't attack loudly. It suggests comfort over courage, familiarity over growth. It doesn't try to destroy you, it tries to delay you, to keep you circling the same emotional block, rehearsing the same lessons, postponing the step you already know you're meant to take. And here's the twist. You've already outgrown what's trying to hold you. That's why it feels irritating instead of terrifying. Years ago, those same doubts would have paralyzed you. Now they just feel outdated. Like clothes that don't fit anymore. The discomfort you feel isn't fear of failure. It's resistance to shrinking. There was a time when staying quiet kept you safe, when blending in was survival, when being agreeable prevented conflict. You learned those skills well. They protected you when you needed them. But seasons change and strategies expire. What once preserved you will now limit you if you cling to it. You may have noticed situations recently where your silence felt wrong, where holding back felt heavier than speaking gently, where your presence was required, even if it made things uncomfortable. Those moments weren't accidents. They were invitations to step forward without becoming harsh, to be visible without being loud, to be firm without being cruel. That balance is rare, and rare things are noticed, not by everyone, but by the right eyes. There has been a quiet watching, again, not judgment, assessment, noting how you handle pressure now versus before, how you respond when misunderstood, how you treat people who can't offer you anything. It changes how you walk forward, and as you do, pay attention to the subtle blessings already appearing. A timely message, a chance meeting, an unexpected opening. These aren't coincidences. They're confirmations layered gently so you won't miss them, but also won't be overwhelmed. Before we move further, pause with this question. Again, no rush to answer. Just notice what stirs. If you stop trying to explain yourself to everyone, who might you finally become? Because the next part of this journey involves visibility of a different kind. Not spotlight, not attention, recognition, and it will require you to trust the steadiness that's been forming inside you all along. What comes next won't ask you to rush, it will ask you to stand. There comes a moment when standing quietly is no longer enough. Not because silence is wrong, but because what you carry has reached a weight that naturally presses outward. This is not about speaking more. It's about allowing your presence to be felt without apology. And that transition can feel unsettling because it removes one of your old shields, invisibility. You may already feel it, people noticing you differently, conversations pausing when you enter a room, eyes lingering a second longer. Not admiration, not suspicion, recognition. As if something familiar but undefined is registering in them. This is often when the internal question rises, am I doing too much? But the truth is, you're finally doing what matches who you are becoming. This phase isn't loud, it's deliberate. You'll notice that you're no longer chasing validation, yet you're less willing to tolerate disrespect. You're not trying to prove anything, yet you won't shrink to keep others comfortable. That balance is powerful, and it can unsettle people who are used to controlling outcomes through dominance or manipulation. Here's the conflict you may not have named yet. Some doors are closing not because you failed, but because you no longer fit the role required to stay inside them. And that can feel like loss, even when it's alignment. Have you felt a strange grief lately, mourning things you know you've outgrown? That grief doesn't mean you're going backward, it means you're integrating. You're honoring the version of you that survived long enough to evolve. That matters. As this integration deepens, another layer reveals itself. Discernment sharpens. You begin to sense intentions before words are spoken. You can feel when energy doesn't match language. You recognize when something is being offered with conditions attached. This awareness isn't paranoia, it's clarity earned through experience. And with that clarity comes responsibility. You'll be tempted to explain yourself, to justify why you've changed, to soften your boundaries with long explanations. Resist that urge. Explanations are often invitations for debate, and not everyone deserves access to your reasoning. The boundaries don't require permission. They require consistency. There's a quiet confidence growing in you now. It's not the kind that announces itself. It's the kind that allows you to walk away without needing the last word, to say a no without guilt, to choose rest without apology. This confidence isn't sourced from ego, it's sourced from alignment. And alignment creates momentum. Here's a twist many don't expect. As you become more grounded, opportunities that once felt out of reach will begin to approach you differently. Not through force, but through resonance. People will seek your input. Doors will open without you pushing. Conversations will shift in your favor without you steering them. This isn't luck, it's positioning. You're being trusted with more, not because you demanded it, but because you're stable enough to carry it without being consumed. But with increased influence comes increased scrutiny. Not everyone will celebrate your steadiness. Some will test it. They may provoke you subtly, trying to pull you back into old reactions. They may question your intentions. They may minimize your growth. This is where restraint becomes your strength. You don't need to defend what's evident. You don't need to correct what time will expose. You don't need to react to what isn't aligned. Let your consistency speak. Ask yourself this: how often lately have you chosen peace over proving a point and felt stronger afterward? That's not avoidance, that's mastery. There's also a quieter revelation unfolding, one that often arrives in still moments. You're realizing that the pressure you once felt to figure everything out is easing, not because answers are suddenly obvious, but because trust has replaced urgency. You're learning to move when it's time, not when anxiety demands it. That shift changes everything. Decisions feel clearer. Waiting feels purposeful instead of punishing. Even uncertainty feels different. It feels spacious, not threatening. This is the stage where many people rush. They mistake readiness for impatience. You won't. You've learned the cost of moving too soon. You understand that timing is part of integrity. And here's something important. What's being prepared for you requires the version of you that exists now, not the one from last year, not the one from your hardest season. You needed refinement before arrival. That refinement wasn't gentle. It required letting go of illusions, about people, about systems, about yourself. It required accepting that some things you hoped would change never would, and that acceptance freed you. Freedom often looks like disappointment at first, but now, clarity is replacing disappointment. You see where your energy belongs, you see where it doesn't, and you're no longer confused by the difference. As this clarity grows, you may feel called to simplify, to reduce noise, to protect your time more fiercely. This isn't withdrawal, it's conservation. You're learning where your presence is most effective. Not every battle needs you. Not every invitation deserves you. Not every crisis requires your intervention. Wisdom is knowing when to step in and when to let others face the consequences of their choices. There's a blessing in this stage that's easy to miss. Peace that isn't dependent on outcomes. You're beginning to feel steady even when results are pending. That steadiness is rare, and it's deeply attractive to the right people and to the right opportunities. It also scares the wrong ones. Those who thrive on chaos won't know how to interact with you anymore. They may fade away. Let them. Absence creates clarity, and clarity creates space. In that space, new connections will form. Not rushed, not dramatic, grounded, mutual, built on respect rather than need. These connections will feel familiar in a way that doesn't exhaust you. You won't have to explain your depth. You won't have to dilute your insight. You'll be met where you are. Have you noticed how your standards have shifted, not upward in arrogance, but inward in honesty? That shift is protecting you. As we move toward the next phase, understand this. You are no longer in preparation mode alone. You're in transition. That means things may feel unfinished, slightly unstable, but undeniably forward-moving. Trust that movement. Trust the quiet confirmations. Trust the quiet confirmations. Trust the strength that doesn't need applause, and most importantly, trust the wisdom you earned the hard way. What's coming will require you to be present, not perfect, steady, not rushed, clear, not loud, and you're more ready than you realize. There is a deeper layer unfolding now, one that doesn't announce itself with noise or spectacle. It arrives quietly, almost respectfully, as if waiting for you to notice it on your own. This is the stage where your inner world begins to shape the outer one with less resistance. You're no longer fighting reality, you're cooperating with it. You may feel less reactive than before. Things that once pulled strong emotions from you now pass through with only a brief ripple. That doesn't mean you care less. It means you're no longer leaking energy into places that cannot hold it. This is maturity of the spirit, and it changes how life responds to you. Something subtle but important is happening. Your intuition is becoming calmer, clearer, more precise. It's no longer shouting to get your attention. It whispers, knowing you're finally listening. Have you noticed how certain decisions feel settled before you consciously make them? That's not coincidence, that's coherence. As this coherence grows, old fears surface one last time, not to stop you, but to be released. Doubts may reappear in familiar forms. What if I'm wrong? Or what if I lose what little I have? Or what if stepping forward costs too much? These questions aren't signs of regression. They're invitations to trust at a deeper level. The difference now is that fear no longer controls your movement. It may speak, but it doesn't drive. And here's the twist many people don't expect. As fear loosens its grip, desire becomes clearer. Not desire for status or approval, but desire for integrity, for meaningful contribution, for a life that feels honest even when it's challenging. You're no longer motivated by escape, you're motivated by alignment. This is where real transformation accelerates. You'll start noticing that your reactions shape outcomes more than circumstances do. When you respond with steadiness, situations resolve faster. When you choose silence over impulse, clarity follows. When you act from conviction instead of pressure, support appears. This isn't magic, it's mastery. There's also a shift happening in how you relate to time. You're less anxious about the future and less burdened by the past. Not because everything is resolved, but because you're anchored in the present. That anchoring allows you to move forward without dragging old weight behind you. You're no longer rushing toward answers. You're allowing them to arrive. And when they do, they arrive fully formed. As this stage deepens, you may feel moments of unexpected gratitude. Gratitude not just for the good, but for the difficult seasons that shaped your discernment. You can now see how challenges refined your perception, strengthened your boundaries, and clarified your values. What once felt like delay was preparation. What once felt like rejection was redirection. What once felt like isolation was protection. Let that settle. There's a calm authority emerging in you now. It doesn't seek dominance, but it commands respect. People sense it even if they can't articulate why. You speak less, but when you do, your words carry weight. You move deliberately, and that deliberateness creates trust. This authority isn't something you put on, it's something you uncovered, and with it comes a new responsibility: to remain grounded as visibility increases. Not everyone will understand the pace you move at or the choices you make. Some may project their own urgency or fear onto you. Others may try to rush you or pull you back into old dynamics. Stay anchored. You don't need to convince anyone of your path. Your consistency will do that for you. There may also be moments when you're tempted to look back, wondering if things would be easier if you returned to old patterns, old roles, old relationships. That temptation is natural. Familiarity feels safe even when it's limiting. But you know better now. You've tasted peace that doesn't depend on external validation. You've felt clarity that doesn't require constant reassurance. You've experienced strength that comes from self-trust rather than approval. Why would you trade that? Ask yourself honestly, what would you lose if you compromised your growth just to feel temporarily comfortable? That question alone will guide you. Another important shift is happening in how you perceive challenges. You're no longer asking, why is this happening to me? You're asking, what is this shaping in me? That change in perspective transforms obstacles into teachers rather than threats. And teachers, even difficult ones, arrive with purpose. You may notice that problems now come with built-in solutions, or at least with clarity about the next step. You're not overwhelmed the way you once were. You trust your ability to navigate uncertainty because you've done it before. This trust isn't blind. It's earned. There's also a quiet expansion of compassion happening within you. Not the kind that overextends itself, but the kind that understands without absorbing. You can hold space for others without losing yourself. You can empathize without rescuing. You can care without carrying. That balance is rare. It allows you to be present without being depleted. As this balance strengthens, your life begins to reorganize around what truly matters. Time feels more intentional. Relationships feel more honest. Work feels more aligned with your values. Even rest feels deeper, more restorative. You're no longer running from yourself, you're living with yourself. And that changes everything. Here's something else unfolding beneath the surface. Your capacity to receive is increasing. For a long time, you were strong, self-reliant, always giving. Receiving may have felt uncomfortable or unfamiliar. Now you're learning that allowing support doesn't weaken you, it honors the reciprocity of life. When you let yourself receive, you allow others to show up fully. That's not selfish, that's balanced. Opportunities will reflect this shift. You may be offered help without asking. Resources may appear unexpectedly. Guidance may come through conversations that seem casual but carry profound insight. Pay attention to these moments. They're confirmations. You're in the flow now, not rushing, not forcing, flowing. And as you flow, you'll notice something else. Joy returning in small, quiet ways. Laughter that feels lighter. Moments of contentment without a specific reason. A sense of being exactly where you need to be, even if everything isn't perfect. That joy is a sign of alignment. It means you're no longer resisting yourself. As we move toward the final stage, understand this. The foundation you're standing on now is solid. It was built through patience, discernment, and resilience. What's coming next will require you to stand in that foundation without doubt. You won't need to become someone new. You'll simply need to remain who you are. And that perhaps is the greatest challenge and the greatest gift. Take a breath. Feel the steadiness. The path ahead isn't uncertain, it's unfolding, and you're ready to walk it. There is a stillness surrounding you now that didn't exist before. Not emptiness, clarity. It's the kind of quiet that comes after a long storm, when the air feels cleaner and every sound carries meaning. This is the moment many people rush past because it doesn't look dramatic from the outside. But spiritually, this is where everything locks into place. You didn't arrive here by accident. You arrived because you stayed when others quit, because you softened when others hardened, because you listened when others numbed themselves. And now, the season ahead is not about proving anything. It's about inhabiting what has already been formed within you. This is where life begins to respond differently. You may notice that resistance fades in unexpected places. Conversations flow instead of clash. Doors that once felt heavy open with little effort. Situations that used to drain you resolve faster or disappear entirely. This isn't because challenges are gone, it's because you're no longer in opposition with who you are. Have you felt that subtle sense of I don't need to chase this anymore? That's not passivity. That's confidence rooted in trust. There is also a quiet separation happening now. Not dramatic endings, not loud confrontations, but gentle distancing. Certain people, habits and obligations begin to fall away naturally. You don't have to force it. They simply no longer fit the frequency you're holding. This can feel bittersweet. You might grieve what once mattered even if it no longer serves you. That grief is human. Honor it, but don't let it pull you backward. Every release you experience now is creating space for something more honest to enter, and it will enter. The next phase of your life will feel more intentional. You'll move with discernment instead of impulse. You'll choose quality over quantity, depth over noise, truth over performance. This isn't withdrawal from the world, it's engagement on your terms. That's a powerful shift. You're also stepping into a role you may not have consciously chosen, being a stabilizing presence for others. People will feel calmer around you. They may seek your perspective, your reassurance, your clarity, not because you have all the answers, but because you're not pretending to. Your groundedness becomes an invitation. Be mindful here, support others but don't carry them. Guide but don't overextend. Your strength now lies in boundaries that are compassionate, not porous. There will be moments when you're tested, not with chaos, but with comfort. Ease can be just as challenging as struggle if it tempts you to disengage from your awareness. Stay present, stay intentional. Comfort is meant to restore you, not distract you. Ask yourself occasionally, am I choosing this because it aligns or because it's easy? That question will keep you clear. Another important realization will surface. You no longer need external validation to confirm your path. Praise feels nice, criticism feels lighter, but neither defines you. Your inner compass has become reliable. You trust it because it has guided you through uncertainty before. This trust allows you to move forward without constant reassurance. You'll begin to recognize opportunities not by how exciting they feel, but by how peaceful they are. If something demands you abandon your integrity, ignore that calm warning. If something invites you to be fully yourself without compromise, pay attention. Peace is your signal now. There's also a deeper understanding settling in. You don't need to know the entire future to take the next step. Clarity arrives as you move, not before. Each step reveals the next piece, and that's enough. You're learning to walk by insight, not by fear. As this unfolds, moments of gratitude will surprise you. Not just for successes, but for the resilience that carried you here. You'll see how every delay protected you from something that wasn't right. How every closed door saved you from a version of life that would have dimmed your spirit. Nothing was wasted. Even the pain had purpose. Now there is a blessing forming, not always in the way you imagined, but in the way you need. It may arrive as stability after chaos, as clarity after confusion, as peace after striving, or as connection after isolation. Receive it. You don't need to earn it again. You already did. And as you stand here grounded and aware, understand this truth deeply. The work now is not to become more, it's to remain true, to protect what has been cultivated, to live from this place of alignment even when life tests it. That's the real commitment. Before we close, take a moment. Place your attention inward. Breathe slowly. Let the noise fade. And let this prayer settle over you. God, thank you for guiding me through seasons I didn't understand. Thank you for the strength you formed in me when I felt weak, and the clarity you revealed when I felt lost. Help me remain grounded in truth, gentle in spirit, and courageous in action. Protect what you have built within me. Lead me forward with wisdom, peace, and discernment. I trust you with what's ahead. Amen. If this word confirms something in your spirit, comment receive it below.